Welcome to my world today.
Good morning, everybody. It is August 29th, 2020. It is a rainy Saturday morning, and today I'm going to give you a garden update. I'm going to show you how I'm canning my tomatoes. I did not grow these myself. These are from a friend that grew a huge, pretty much a field of tomatoes of various kinds, and she has been kind enough to give me a couple of buckets full of ones that she was unable to sell in her stand. As you can see, they are, in my opinion, for what I grow, perfect for slicing and eating, but these are not suitable for her stand given the cracks and other things. So this is my Victoria strainer. I have always wanted one of these, and I finally found one in my price range. These go for about $60 new or more. I was able to find one on Facebook Marketplace for someone that would actually ship it to me for $20. So goodbye there. And this is kind of my little setup here. I set my pot here, and once it's all put together, the good juice will go here, and then the bad stuff will go in a bowl over here that I can just throw out to the garden. Okay, so I'm going to put together this Victoria strainer. Yours might be a little different. So what we've got here is the crank. I leave my handle on all the time, so I don't have to worry about taking it on and off. And then you have this that goes on the inside, and it swirls and it smashes the tomatoes into juice and separates for you. So what you do is there's an end that looks like that. So you just match it up right here until it kind of snaps in there, and then you can turn it. It's going to be a little loose till you get the strainer on. So this is strainer, and mine has the wing nuts on it. So I just slip that on over, and then I put the wing nuts in their proper place here on the side, and it should snap into place, and then you just tighten it as far as it'll go. Some of these, if you get them used and older, there is a rubber ring in here that you might want to think about replacing. You can probably get them on eBay for super cheap and just replace it. Same goes for the old quart jar pressure canners. If you get one that's older, maybe think about replacing the rubber ring on the inside of the lid every few years. So I'll just get these tightened here. And this is still going to leak a little bit. I think my rubber ring on this needs replaced. I need to find a new one. Look on eBay or Amazon and find one. And then this is your tray, and it has a little spot under here, and it's going to catch your juice and your good paste that's going to come out. And then you just tighten that in the spot. This also is a little loose. Got to figure out a way to make that a little bit tighter up against, but it sets right there, and everything will go into my pot. That's good. And let me find my mixing bowl that I stuck up here stupidly. And all the seeds, skin, whatever's not good to go in the canner is gonna go right there. All right. And most of them are too big to just throw in there and mash down. So I've got to cut some. We've got some, I think these are some kind of giant Belgium tomatoes, the really big ones, which are very good, by the way, if you like big slicing tomatoes. But I have a variety. They're all good for canning. You can actually, if they're really good and ripe, you can see if your dog likes them. Dogs like to eat fruit and veggies. Pears are actually good for dogs. They're a good source of fiber. Needy likes everything. She'll eat cucumbers and apples. Don't feed your dogs grapes or onions. Those are poisonous to dogs. Just a heads up. And then we got some yellow tomatoes here. There's a kind of yellow tomato that was for stuffing. It didn't have a bunch of innards in it, and you were able to stuff it like a green pepper. I haven't seen too many of them. She said they didn't do very well, so maybe next year we'll get some of them. And I think I might make sauce out of these. I'm going to get my juice, but then I'm going to add onion and maybe some celery and stuff like that I like in my meat's washed. That I like in my sauce. That way all I have to do in the wintertime is add meat. Now you can add meat right off the bat and just put it in there and can it like that it's ready to go, but you got to can those different when it comes to meat, and I'm not a pro yet at meat. So I'm just going to stick to what I know. Oh man, if you guys could smell this, these just smell like wonderful ripe tomatoes. My friend Jeanette is awesome for giving me these for a discounted price. I'm very happy that I have tomatoes this year. I like to can just the juice in pint jars, and I'll take them to work with me in the wintertime. And I'll just warm it up in the microwave for something hot, because it's usually freezing in my building where I work, and that's my lunch, and it's very good and like a nice little taste of summer. Okay, we've got we're almost full here. As you can see, these Belgiums, they've got some meat in them, and they're nice and juicy, and they're ready to be eaten. Now, I personally don't care if they've got cracks or some bad spots on them. I'll cut that out, and in the can they go. I'll even eat them straight like that. I'm not picky. Okay. All right, so give me just a second here. Wipe my hands off. Like you need a never-ending supply of rags whenever you're doing this to keep the mess under control. Okay, let me turn you around here. Okay, here's the setup, and I've got my beggars here. Miss Cleopatra, Miss Marissa here is wanting some tomatoes. All right, so I filled that up, and then I have my, let's see with it. Oh, here it is. This is to help push the tomatoes down through as you crank, okay? So, the good stuff is going to get sifted through here, and it's going to come down into my pot. As you can see, the juice is already coming down through. And then the seeds and all the junk is going to come into this pot. So, I'll be back whenever I get some of that done. Okay, so I've strained some of these down through. You're going to have to, take a spatula or something and take that paste off. That's good stuff to go down in there. And churn slow, otherwise you are going to be splattered with tomato juice. That's why I have a towel here, because it kind of leaks sometimes. And then there's my junk coming out right there. One more thing I forgot to mention here as I'm straining these. These are heirloom tomatoes, so you can save the seeds from these and you will get the exact same thing whenever you plant them the next year. Heirloom tomatoes are the only ones that you can do that with. So if you get a nice juicy big tomato that you just want to have more of the next year, just save the seeds from it, dry them, and they should be good to go next year. Alright, so I've got the whole bucket juiced, and these are just some stragglers I've left from my garden. I'm going to put in this smaller pot here. But as you can see, I've got a big pot of seeds and skins and stems, and then I've got two very nice pots of just the juice and the paste. So I've added onion, I've added freeze-dried chives, salt and pepper, and this is going to be my soup. I think it's going to turn out soup, but you can still use it as sauce and add the meat in and add whatever in a crock pot later. It's good for both. So I'm bringing these up to a boil, and I'm going to let them boil because there's a lot of water content in there, and you want to boil off as much water as you can. So as you can see, it's quite juicy, and it's coming up to a boil, and I just want to keep stirring periodically. And then the water content will, I'd say maybe like an hour or so. I usually let it boil for. And then I can it up, and we'll be back when it's ready to go in the canner. Alright, so now I've got this smaller pot cooked down, and then you can see kind of the consistency soup. Most of the water has cooked off, but this bigger pot that I have, when I came back, there was some water still on the top, so I'm going to cook that down for a little longer and get some more water off of that. This is ready to go in our jars. I have a clean, freshly washed quart jar, and I'm just going to ladle this in there and through my funnel. Move this up. This one slopped over there. It's okay. Alright, some is full here. Fill it right to the rim. So right there. So it has a little bit of room. Okay, so I have a few jars filled here. I'm going to take my rag and I'm going to wipe around the rims really good. I'm going to do a little better job of this here whenever I don't have the camera in my hand. But you wipe your rims, wipe your threads here. Get a clean lid. Put that on there. Grab yourself a ring. And it only needs to be finger tight. This does not need to be super tight because you're going to want to take the rings off whenever they're sealed down. And then that is ready to go in the canner. So as you can see, my tomatoes did grow, finally. They took off a little later than usual, but I had to replant some, and some of the ones that got hit with the frost came back, and they're just getting a little late. My onions down here are still going. The broccoli and early stuff didn't do well this year, so I just pulled it out. Remnants of that's over there. I did throw in some corn just to see what it would do, and as you can see, it didn't do anything, so I'll probably just use the stalks as decoration this year. Strawberries that I transplanted from the other place that I lived didn't do bad this year. I got a decent amount of strawberries. So we're hoping for better next year. I did some bush beans, which I got to get in there and pick some that are on there now, and those are probably done for the year. I got a couple of cans of beans out of that, so I am happy. I got some later Roma tomatoes and some Cherokee purple going in here. These were very late, so I will see if I actually get any good ripe ones off of them. They got the blight pretty early this year. So I don't know if I'll plant that late, and obviously next year we're going to do a different setup, so they'll be hopefully further apart. Got some beets left down in here that I'm just letting in there until I want to pickle some more eggs. Very happy with what this Roma tomato did in the pot this year. I had a lot that had blossom end rot, and here's an example right there. And I've just been kind of picking them off. They probably doesn't have enough calcium or something in there, but I've got lots of tomatoes that are perfect, and a lot of them are starting to ripen up. But the plant seems healthy and happy, so that's something that I can keep in mind for next year. My green peppers that have been in the pot this year. Very happy with the way the actual plant looks, but again, I've been getting a lot of peppers that get a bit of a rotten spot on them. But now that we're later in the season, I'm getting pretty good peppers. So I mean, it wasn't a total loss whenever I got the ones with the rotten spot on them. Needy ate them happily for a treat. So they seem happy, and this is something that I can do again next year. And actually, there's an example right there of one that got a spot on it that has a rotten spot that Needy will probably be eating here shortly. It's probably because they don't have enough calcium. Next year I'll have to do some Epsom salts or something with them if I put them again in a pot. So we'll do this plant here. This isn't obviously a garden plant, but I bought this at Walmart on clearance. It was pretty much half dead, and I came home, repotted it with some creeping Jenny here, and you know, it took a month or two, but it has really come alive, and I'm really happy with the way it looks, and it's decorating my table back here on my patio. Say good morning to Dexter, and Mama Cat's out here. Now later in the season, I had some cantaloupe seeds that I wanted to just kind of get rid of. I've had them a few years, so I threw them in the ground here, and they have started to take over. I don't have a lot of bees around here to pollinate, so I was kind of trying to pollinate myself, and there's maybe one poor excuse for a cantaloupe that's gonna come, but you know, the last couple years I haven't had any luck with cantaloupe or watermelon. I don't really have the room, so this will probably be my last year for growing it. Catnip has done well out here. I have been cutting it back all season long and drying the leaves, and I will have been putting them in a jar, and I'll have that for a little treat for my cats over winter. They love catnip. These mosquito plant here has also been something that I've been cutting back throughout the season and drying the leaves and putting in a jar. I haven't quite figured out too much of a use for that over winter, so I'm going to be still doing some research on that. As you can see, my grapevine has died. No surprise there. But the thyme was doing great, and then it died back, but it's coming back around. I've been also drying those and putting in a jar for over winter to put in hamburgers and stuff like that, because that stuff, believe it or not, is pretty expensive in the store. Now this year I have been lucky enough to have neighbors who have red Bartlett trees, and they weren't using their pears. So I asked if I could come over and can some of their pears. They said yeah, that they didn't want anything for them, and I picked 4 buckets of what I could reach with Christopher's ladder. And so this is kind of just the remainder of what's left. I've been canning them for quite a, you know, maybe a week or two here. So pears, if you've never picked pears before, pears do not ripen on the tree. If you find them ripe on the tree already, they're no good. So what you do is whenever you pick a pear off of the branch, you know, say it's on the branch and you go like that and it snaps off without effort, it's ready to be picked from the tree. Now they ripen from the inside out, so whenever you got to let these sit maybe a week or two, depends. If you come up to a pear and you push right here and it gives, it is ready to be peeled and canned and eaten. If not, let them sit. So I'm pushing on this one, it's giving. That one's ready. This one I was just messing with, that one's still a bit hard. I'm gonna let it sit another day or two. So I've just been kind of coming out here and getting a bunch that are ready, and so what I do is I put them in a pot. When I peel them, I put them in a pot of water with lemon juice in it. That keeps them from turning brown. And then I blanch them on the stove for a couple of minutes, and then I add sugar. It depends how sweet you like your fruit, so I kind of just throw some sugar in. I can't say I actually measure. Watch another video if you want that actual measurement number, because it varies how much I do. And then I just can them up and I put them in the pressure canner for at least the pint jars. I do a half hour in my electric canner, and then if I'm doing quart jars, I did maybe 10 to 15 minutes with 10 pounds of pressure. And they sealed, and we'll see how they are this winter. Alright, so this is the finished product. We are all done, and it looks like all of the jars have popped down. They are sealed. Now if you want to test this, you can take the ring off now and kind of make sure you can't pull the lid up, but otherwise these are going on the shelf for winter time. And thanks for watching, and have a good weekend.